Welcome, everybody. This is your host, Cory, with my co-host and partner, Johnny. How you doing, Johnny? How you feeling? Good? We're on the Scarlet and Great podcast, finally.
That's right, and I am doing great. It feels good to be back. It was a long hiatus we took, but I'm very happy to be back and be officially the Scarlet and Great podcast, the one thing I can contribute to our show, the name.
We even changed it a little bit in the spelling.
We did, because my little play on words, Grayt, confused some people. I thought it was pretty awesome, but it made searches harder. If people Google search us, which we're probably one of the top 2 or 3 Google searches in the world, I would imagine.
Easily on any given day, really.
Right. So yes, but even outside of football season. So yeah, it's going to make people a little easier. It's going to make it a little easier, I should say, for people to find us. And I'm just looking forward to it, man. Looking forward to these changes. I appreciate you being on board with adopting the name. You were really good to me last year here in my show that I just started out of the blue. Unbeknownst to me, a lot of you guys had your own Ohio State football podcasts, and you introduced me to some contacts, and so you had a wealth of information. You took me in with open arms, and you got me in with the guys there at BuckeyesNews.net. And I was trying to think about what I brought to this relationship and this show, and I was thinking, well, Cory had the wealth of information. He had the inside circle. He has the recruiting knowledge. He had pretty good numbers in his podcast. And I have a cool name. So thankfully for me, you were one of the, I guess I would say one of my biggest fans. You were one of the guys that were reaching out to me when I started recording and say, hey, you have a good show. And, I'm very thankful that when I asked if you wanted to work together, you said, yeah. And here we are. And hopefully we can keep driving this thing forward.
I agree. Although we had a few arguments there privately about some of the content in your show. When I would disagree, we said, what, if we're going to argue in private, we might as well just argue on the mic.
That's
and get
true.
It recorded and let the people hear the arguments.
That's true. You were more for that than I probably am, because it does make for a better show, but I'm just a good-hearted guy, and I would rather prove you wrong in private and not in front of the whole world. But if that's the way you want to have it, then that's the way we will do it, my friend.
Hey, I'm good with it. I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again frequently. I mean, I'm not shying away from the fact that I can be wrong, and am wrong at times. But that being said, Scarlet and Great podcast, episode number 1 of the Scarlet and Great podcast, as in this context. I'm going to miss the Buckeye Brotherhood, but I am looking forward to the future, to be honest with you. So, anyways, let's actually get down to business. This is why we're here, to talk Buckeye sports. And obviously, football is kind of taking a back seat for the moment. Thank you to Coach Holtman and the Buckeye basketball crew. Granted, they had a tough loss again to Penn State. That's 3 times this year, if you're counting, this season anyway. 1-point loss. Penn State made a bucket with 2.8 seconds left, or 3.1 seconds after they added time. And we were going to talk about the game a little bit. And I first want to talk about, you probably saw this too. The reaction of the fans to this game kind of shows how far Holtman has brought this program in 8 months, because nobody really cared about basketball to begin the season. Nobody expected anything out of this team. And then all of a sudden, they're the number 2 seed in the Big Ten tournament. They lose to Penn State, and everybody's up in arms, with some people even questioning whether or not Holtman should keep his job. I'm not kidding about that. That's real. There are some people who think, well, if this wasn't year 1, we would start to discuss whether or not he should still be the coach. And to those people, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. You're a moron. You're an idiot. Anybody who goes 24-8, second in the Big Ten, I don't care what year it is, it could be year 12 for him, he's not getting fired. Unless we had literally 10 NBA lottery picks on the team, then he might be considered an underachiever. But the team that was picked to be 11th or 12th in the Big Ten, he goes 24-8, 15-3 in the Big Ten. Yeah, he lost to Penn State 3 times. It's a bad matchup. Get over it. I just don't even understand, if you're not talking with emotion, Johnny, how can you be upset? Not you, but how can people be upset by the season the Buckeyes have had? And it's still going because we got a tournament to go. But the season they've had, how can anybody be upset with this?
Like you said, emotion over logic. Also, I think maybe starting to believe the hype. When you see this team knock off top-rated programs like Michigan State, Purdue, and then I guess your expectations change dramatically. You say, okay, this is not a rebuild year. We are a top-tier program, and we shall expect top-tier results game in and game out. And I know that's a little bit ridiculous to expect on a rebuild year this is a really, really, really good rebuild year, so let me just expect the world every time. And I know it is frustrating to lose the same team over and over, but let me just say, I am so glad some of you people aren't my boss. You're so quick to fight. Like, for real, if any of you are in upper management, I bet you have an extremely high turnover ratio, don't you? Like, come on, guys. Are you gonna fire people left and right? You wanted to fire Urban Meyer? You're gonna fire Chris Holtmann? I mean, you guys are like the University of Tennessee fans who thought they were going to bring in John Gruden or Bill Belichick. So let's calm down a little bit here. Yeah, for whatever reason, a team had our number. I always say styles make fights. Because of matchup problems, probably an inferior team just kept having our number. But, you cannot think emotionally when it comes to cases like these.
Yeah, I agree. And look, it's basketball. I mean, it's like a bunch of football fans decided to watch basketball, not realizing that it's a completely different sport. You're going to lose some games. I mean, yes, it's attainable to go undefeated in football, especially with as much talent as Ohio State has. And it's still ridiculously hard to do so, but it's attainable. Folks, you're not going undefeated in basketball. In fact, you're going to lose some games you shouldn't lose. That's just the nature of the sport. Some of the best teams in the world, the Golden State Warriors, who arguably are the best team in the world the last few years overall, except for one series where they gave up a 3-1 lead, arguably the best team in the world. They've lost some games this year, in fact, that they shouldn't lose. It's normal. It happens. Penn State had our number. I get it. I also think that the officiating's a little different when we play Penn State. It's a little weird, but that being said, we're just not as aggressive as they are. That's one thing they have over us, is they out-rebound us. They're more aggressive than us. I'd argue they're more athletic than we are. I'm not exactly sure how they've lost 13 games. They just lost to Purdue tonight pretty badly, in fact. And we beat Purdue. So, again, it's a matchup issue. I just don't get what it is about that team necessarily. Maybe I think more so it's the guard play. Tony Carr is a legitimately excellent player, but the guard play for Purdue is better than Ohio State. Ohio State is relying on Andrew Dakich to be a main contributor, and that guy couldn't get minutes at Michigan. I mean, it's just... Holtmann called Dan Dakich saying, I desperately need a point guard. What's Andrew Dakich doing? And I didn't expect anything from this team this year. I thought, maybe if they get 18 wins, I'll be happy. Now they're going to be a top 5 seed in not overall, but in their bracket in the tournament, probably a number 4 or 5 seed at 24-8. And they were second in the Big Ten. I find it hard to complain, especially when you had no expectations this year. We're also seeing something with Holtmann this year, Johnny, where players are developing. I haven't seen that in like 4 or 5 years with Ohio State. Not to rag on Matta, but it just didn't seem like players were developing or getting better. Now it looks like Andre Wesson's getting better. You saw improvement from the young guys, Musa Jallow and Kyle Young, throughout the year. Keita Bates-Diop has never played this well when he was at Ohio State. Deshaun Tate, I think, is basically the same as he's always been. He's that spark plug who brings the energy. C.J. Jackson unquestionably got better. Cam Williams, I'd argue, even got better in some respects. Caleb Wesson showed improvement through the year. we're starting to see players get better, which we didn't see before. But Johnny, what did you? Let's go to last night's game specifically. You watched last night's game, correct?
Well.
Oh no! You're a host of the show and you're not even watching.
So. Weird thing, there's a bad windstorm here in Virginia. I went out to dinner to the swing spot with some fellow Ohioans. I was going to watch the game, and no power. No power due to the windstorm. So I've been forced to kind of pick up on these apps on my phone, the box score and everything. So I'm not going to be a good analyst, and I'm just go ahead and say I love basketball. I love to watch it. I love to play it. I did not watch this team like you watched this team. I remember even, speaking to your honesty about low expectations, I remember about 6 or 7 games in, you hit me up and said, hey, this team's not going to be very good. So if you do watch them, you don't expect a lot. And then, like you said, oh, wow, we really started making some stuff happen. So I want to let me answer your question with a question, since I am of no use here. So with I do educate me and educate the rest of us so we can watch this team in an educated fashion going into the tournament. What's this team's identity? Like what do they have to do well to make some noise in the NCAA tournament?
I'd say defense is their identity. They're definitely more of a defensive team. They stifle you. They have good length. The depth actually provides quality in the defensive end. Not so much the offensive end, but the defensive end. Basically, usually the first guy off the bench now, I think, is Andre. Well, sometimes it's Andrew Dakic, but sometimes it's Andre Weston as well, who's improved dramatically, I think. And he's a really solid defender in the mid-range game as well as down low. I remember we played Purdue and that 7'9" guy they have, Haas.
Haas, yes.
It was actually Andre Weston, not Caleb, Andre Weston, who stifled him enough to where Ohio State could actually gain an advantage. I actually, defensively they're very, very solid. You don't see too many 80 to 90 point games against Ohio State, so it's definitely better than our offensive end. On offense, it's our whole entire identity is if Keita Bates-Diop is making his shot. I really think that's about it. I'd like to say that there's, the ball movement has improved over, I'd say over last year, but it's still kind of wind down a little bit as the season's gone on. It seems like sometimes we don't really know what to do against certain defenses, but I think if Keita's shot is on, it really opens up space for everybody. And then it gives Cam Williams opportunities. It gives C.J. Jackson opportunities. Sometimes it opens up the post for Caleb Weston, so they can't quickly double down on people because you have guys drop on their shot, especially Keita. But honestly, I think their identity mostly is just really solid, tough, gritty defense.
Yeah, and my analysis from watching them in limited action that I've seen is it's not a flashy team on offense by any means, or even defense. It's almost an old school team to me. It looks like a team that came along 10 years too late. My evaluation of watching Keita Bates-Diop, it was, wow, this guy's 10 years too late. He is that big 3-4 that's not a really terrific 3-point shooter, but is great from the mid-range. That Lamar Odom type of player that we see, that mid-range specialist, is disappearing in today's NBA, where with the emergence of the stretch four. But my analysis of that team is that they're fun to watch because when they're on, they don't make a lot of mistakes. They're not real flashy, like you said, not a ton of offensive talent, but it's guys not making mistakes. And if you're not turning the ball over and you're moving the ball and you're constantly in a motion offense, good things can happen. So I remember a guy I went to high school with in Southern Ohio. We had a really good ball team, and we had one of my friends on the team, and I could not figure out why it was. Even as an underclassman, he was always really high on the varsity coach's radar. And starting on the varsity team, I'm like, man, what is it this guy does? He can shoot when he's open, but what is it that he does? He's not flashy at all. He never, ever, ever made any mistakes. He never turned the ball over. So that right there is invaluable when it comes to a basketball team and not making mistakes and not turning the ball over. Do you feel like this team, Cory, can compete with anybody when they're not turning the ball over and running their constant set?
Yeah, but they have to play flawless. And I think their biggest problem isn't even turnovers as much. I mean, turnovers has been a problem at times this year, don't get me wrong. But I think it's just lack of aggression. You know what I noticed against Penn State yesterday is Andrew Dakich, even C.J. Jackson to a point, they almost drive to the basket without a real purpose in mind. Because Dakich constantly would have a lane, and then he'd turn around and move back out to the three-point line, and it's just put the ball up or give it to somebody. Do something with it. What are you running around in circles for? You're not John Stockton, you know? And, and Jackson many times would drive the baseline, and he'd get underneath the basket and then turn around and look for somebody. It almost like he really was a little out of control and didn't quite know what he was doing. Sometimes I think on offense, our players take too long. They think too much, take too long to make a decision. They allow the double team to trap them quite often. Keita has this happen to him quite often because, he's going to draw the most attention. And I have been arguing with my good friend Kyle Lamb about Keita's ability because he sees Keita as a much better player than I do. I think he's a good college player. I think at best he'll be a European player. I don't think he'll be an NBA guy. He'll get drafted, but I don't think he'll be an NBA guy, if that makes sense. He's not overly quick. He doesn't really handle the ball extremely well, so he doesn't really know. He's not great at creating a shot for himself, and he loves that baseline jumper, that 15-footer where he can just turn around and then put it up because he's tall. He's got length. He's got the wingspan of a condor, and he's tall, lanky. He's got a lot of length to him, and it causes problems for defenders if he can get a clean shot because you're not going to block it. And often he would either fade away or turn around jumper right on the baseline, and he'd hit it constantly, or he can go to the elbow of the foul line, and he could hit the jumper there as well. And he can also hit an occasional three-pointer, which, when his shot is on, he's a very dangerous player. But if his shot isn't on, I think at times he really struggles to find other ways to score. He doesn't have a great low post game. He doesn't, in my opinion, he forces some really bad shots at times. And I just don't think, Kyle thinks he's an extremely natural scorer. I don't see him that way. But Kyle and I have disagreed with that one, and I respect Kyle's opinion because he's a very intelligent guy. I just don't agree with him on this one. But that's where their offense, if Keita's not making a shot, it's really it's up to CJ and Cam to hit three-pointers. That seems to be about it.
Yeah, I was going to ask, and it seems like you're talking about Dakich and the other guys that kind of have that in their head. I'm not a scorer. So when I do get a half a step on my guy, I'm still not looking to score because I'm not a scorer. And like you said, it kind of puts a kink in the whole offensive system. Like, well, what in the world do I have you out there for if you're not going to get the ball up to the rim when you have your man beat? So we're running into the NCAA tournament. What has to happen if Keita is off? Who would pick up the slack offensively for them to be a good program in the tournament?
Gosh, you know who I would love to see get more touches and more shots would be Cam Williams, because I think Cam has the quickness to create his own shot at times, and he does really well with a quick jump shot off the screen. I remember Larry Bird revived Reggie Miller's career by running him off the screen and just getting him open looks and letting him turn around and shoot it, because Reggie had such a quick release. Cam has a quick release, and he shoots better when he shoots it quicker. Because if he thinks too much, for some reason he just rims it out or he breaks it. But if he shoots it up really quick, he could drain it. And I really would like to see Cam become more of an assertive scorer. I think that's probably the biggest problem. As I said earlier with the offense, is there's not a lot of assertiveness on offense. It's almost like they think too much. And I really wish Cam would kind of take that next step, especially in the tournament. If Keita's getting double teamed and they basically only respect him as a scorer, you'd have to believe that would leave somebody open or leave somebody with some space. And a guy like Cam, he actually kept Ohio State in the game at times against Penn State yesterday. We're recording this Saturday for reference. I would like to see him get more opportunities. as much as I love Chris Holtmann, as much as I don't want him fired like some idiots do, I'm actually excited for the future of Buckeye basketball. I do have some questions about yesterday's game that I'm not quite sure what his thinking was on a few things, but again, he has forgotten more about basketball than I'll ever know. So Chris Holtmann is the man. But I think Cam Williams would be the guy I would hope would step up and be the scorer if Keita can't quite get his shot where he's comfortable.
Well, you've kind of talked me into kind of wanting to see the team more. As you're right, the scores are kept low, and that is a testament to good defense, and that's a testament to good coaching. So, fellow basketball coaches out there, I am one on a much smaller level. That's one of the reasons why we had such a long break between recording this offseason. Is if you have an under-talented team offensively, swarming defense, man, can really make up for a lot of that. So, like you said, good job on the coaching. Big Ten Coach of the Year for a reason. You could even make a case for National Coach of the Year, really, when you're picked at the bottom of your conference and you end up under 10 losses. Like you said, this is really, really an overachieving season. Do you have any final comments before we take a break and head into football, Cory?
Yeah, I just want people to be proud of this team. I'm extremely proud of this team, and I'm excited about the future. It's been a blast to watch this team. Yes, I know we lost to Penn State. I know people freak out. I had somebody responding to me on Twitter, "We're overrated," and I just had to explain, well, it's just a bad matchup. We're 24-5 against the rest of college basketball. And I don't buy that, is what he responded. It's like, okay, I don't want to deal with negativity. This is a team that you could say overachieved, fine. But it was a blast to watch them this year. We get to watch them some more in the NCAA tournament. A tournament, by the way, that they've missed the past 2 years. And we're still going to complain that we're not on the level of Villanova yet? Or it's just, come on, folks. I mean, enjoy the ride. And this is going to be a fun journey with a new coach who is an up-and-comer and by most accounts is a guy you're going to be looking at 15 years down the road as one of the great coaches possibly of this era in college basketball. So I'm excited for the future. I'm excited for Coach Holtmann. I'm excited to see the new kids he brings in next year, see what kind of impact they can make. And I'm also excited to see the growth of Kyle Young, Musa Jallow, Caleb Wesson, and others next year. So, I mean, again, I'm skipping ahead a little too far because we still got some games to play. But that being said, guys, just be excited about the basketball program. It's in good hands. Yeah,
for a little perspective, guys, the University of Kentucky, an all-time basketball powerhouse with probably 3 first-round draft picks on the team, just got their 10th loss today. So, again, a little bit of perspective will go a long ways when it comes to evaluating this team.
Completely agree.
All right. Well, we'll head to a short break, and then we'll bring up everybody's favorite Buckeye sport, fencing. Just kidding. We'll talk about football next.
I actually was now jacked up about talking about fencing, but you just pulled the rug from underneath me.
Too bad. Find another podcast.
All right, guys, we'll be right back.
Don't let that team stand in the way. No way. Handle your business, man. Everything you got. 4 to 6 A to B, 9 strong. Let's do this. Shut down on the move.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Scarlet and Great podcast. We're going to take this show on down the road and talk about football a little bit, everybody's favorite Buckeye sport. I know I'm missing it. I know you guys are missing it. So right now, the only thing, not the only thing, but one of the most relevant things we can talk about are the new freshmen. We had a great recruiting class, number 2 in the nation. We got some early enrollees on campus this year. We got a lot of unanswered questions about next year's team, but a lot of bright spots looking forward. So, Cory, what do you think about these new freshmen on the team? What are you excited about? Get us going, get us started, and let's break these guys down.
I'm excited for any incoming freshmen, especially with the way we recruit these days. The whole class, you could see, it's a class of guys you can see like, wow, I could see him as a future star of this team. Even some of the 3 stars we get that are very rare these days for us. You could sit there and say, wow, I could definitely see where he can be a contributor right down the road and be a solid one as well. And I think I'm looking at the list of people who were in early, and I think the only 3-star is quarterback Matt Baldwin. Although I do think he might have gotten his 4-star.
He did.
Right.
He did.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, right before the. Oh, well, then we don't have a 3-star. But that being said, yeah, I'm excited. I'll just give the list right now. We'll talk about them one by one. Quarterback Matt Baldwin from Texas, running back Master Teague from Tennessee, offensive lineman Max Ray, also from Tennessee, offensive lineman Matthew Jones from New York, defensive lineman Antoine Jackson from technically Georgia and then Texas, as he went to Blinn JUCO. Defensive lineman Tommy Togiai, I think that's how you say the name, Togiai, from Idaho, the powerhouse of Idaho. Linebacker Dallas Gant from Ohio, defensive back Seven Banks from Florida, and his fellow Floridians, defensive back Tyreek Johnson. All are enrolled. They have been in winter conditioning. Spring practice starts next Tuesday. Man, you know what? Football is really a year-round sport if you love Ohio State football the way we do.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking, Cory, we're, a month away from the spring game? And we're going to have a nice quarterback duel that everybody is looking forward to, and probably going to leave us with more questions than it answers. But that spring game, man, I'm really, really looking forward to that one. I think you should buy us plane tickets up there. Maybe we can do a live show from the shoe. What do you think?
I'm thinking no.
Well,
actually,
I tried.
Yeah, you tried to get a free ticket. I know. Yeah, again, with the way we recruit, anybody who's early or enrolls early, it's exciting because they're getting a head start and they're getting a chance to possibly prove themselves as contributors even in their freshman year, which we know that most guys, the kind of guys that we recruit, they all want to be contributing pretty quickly. Let's just go one by one. Let me ask you something, man. You remember we did a segment when Baldwin had committed to Ohio State, and so many Buckeye fans were kind of about this guy, and you and I had watched I guess you could call it tape on him, and I came away extremely impressed. I thought I could see this guy starting a few years down the road after potentially Tate Martell's done at Ohio State. I mean, what was your feeling on him?
Yeah, I didn't think there was anything wrong with him. I think, this was back in the Emory Jones days. Like I said, Emory Jones looked like a bigger, little more natural, smoother athlete. But Baldwin looked like a guy that was making all the throws and really see any throws he couldn't make. So, and again, for those just seeing the 3 stars next to his name, you cannot, there's just no, these recruiting agencies, I guess you call them, these scouting websites, aren't going to give a guy 4 and 5 stars when they have no tape on him going into his senior year. He got bumped to a 4-star, so I think he did fine. I was excited about him because he did have some wheels, but not so much so that it outweighed his throwing ability. His throwing ability from the pocket really, really was impressive, and I think he was an absolute steal to just run and grab late in the signing class.
Exactly, and he didn't have that late blow up that some kids have. But, the fact is that you got to give Coach Ryan Day, Mark Pantoni and his staff, Urban Meyer, a lot of credit for, first of all, the situation with Emory Jones at the time, it was, gosh, is he even going to commit to Ohio State, or is he going to stay committed to Ohio State or not? And we didn't get left without a quarterback. We went and found a guy who, honestly, I've seen us do this in the past where we go and get a guy and it's like, oh, God, he's never going to play here. But I see this guy and I'm looking, man, this guy could start at Ohio State at some point. I'm not saying he's going to do it right away or challenge right away. He will redshirt this year. Let's make no mistake about it. I know he came in and he gave an interview. He's going to compete for the starting job because it's open. But it's like, if we're being realistic, he's not beating out 3 top-tier quarterbacks. So if he did somehow, I would like, okay, this guy's a god somehow. But anyway, or else I'd question Meyer's sanity at that point. But
correct.
But Johnny was looking for that answer. But yeah, this guy will redshirt, but I could definitely see him as the backup to Tate Martell whenever Tate Martell takes over. So I'm excited he's getting an early start. It's not going to make him a contributor, but I guarantee you he's going to be an excellent scout quarterback. for us and give us a lot of good looks against some of the quarterbacks we're going to be facing. Going on to the running back, Master Teague, another guy that at the time when he committed, a lot of people thought we had a shot with Zamir White, the number 1 running back in the country. Most of us knew he was going to Georgia. It was just kind of obvious. I know he liked Ohio State a lot. He may have even preferred Ohio State at one point, but his mother didn't. Mother wins out. He goes to Georgia. And Master Teague kind of became the guy we take, instead of Zamir White. And again, he was 3 stars at the time, and people thought, they were meh. Because we're so spoiled in recruiting now, if we get a 3-star kid, automatically he must suck. So I thought, watching his tape, I thought, this kid, again, has a lot of potential. Then he did his combine numbers, I guess you could call them, at the camps, at Alabama camp, and he was measuring in at almost 6 foot, 220 pounds, ripped, shredded from head to toe, no fat on him, and he's running 4.340s and whatnot, and I'm thinking, I think we just got another steal. We got a kid who looks like he can compete, and I think he was averaging over 8 yards a touch in high school in senior year before he got hurt. And now he's in early, and I got to tell you, unlike Baldwin, I don't see him redshirting. I think T could overtake Antonio Williams. That's just my opinion. I'm not pulling against Antonio Williams, as he looked pretty solid last year, but honestly, I think Teague is such a physical specimen. You're just going to have to put him on the field. What do you see in him?
Well, I wonder if we're not. I want to call this the J.K. Dobbins effect. So, is the J.K. Dobbins effect that you have a established 6 yards per carry runner in Mike Weber, who is of course going to be the returning starter, right? Well, so a true freshman comes in and unseats him. So I wonder if we're not doing this with Master Teague. Not saying we're getting ahead of ourselves here, but I think maybe we have this in our mind, like, hey, if you're a freak athlete as a running back, somebody gets hurt, man, next man up. We've seen it before. This guy can get some minutes. But that being said, Cory, with our depth, you mean like you mentioned Williams at in the third string, but also we got guys like Damari McCall going out to H-back. You really think it's plausible that he gets meaningful snaps with no injuries, or just enough snaps to keep him from redshirting?
I think just enough to keep him from redshirting is plausible. Barring injury, okay, if God forbid, knock on wood, J.K. and Mike got hurt.
Oh, geez, both of them.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Then I think then he would get some serious time. But I think even if only one of them got hurt, we would just lean on the other one rather than go rotational back. But I think T can get some mop up minutes this year, or snaps this year. Absolutely, I really think he's capable of doing that. It will be interesting though to see when Brian Snead finally gets on campus if like who's kind of advancing. I have to believe Teague would have a head start, obviously, and have a jump on him. But I mean, we'll see, because Snead's an extremely talented player himself, and quite frankly, many see him as the future back more so than Teague.
Yeah, I think Teague has the cooler name, so I'm going with Teague.
Well, he is the master. Anyway,
oh, wow.
Moving on, offensive line. Yeah, it was a terrible pun. I apologize. Moving on, offensive lineman Max Ray, offensive tackle Max Ray, probably going to be a right tackle in his time. Outside shot at left tackle, maybe that's gone now because Nicholas Petit-Frere committed, and he is a true left tackle. But Max Ray's a guy I love. He's got such a great attitude. I think he's going to redshirt this year, even with our lack of depth at tackle, because I could definitely see Petit-Frere end up into 2 deep pretty quickly. And I think Alibi is, or Alibi, however you say his name, is definitely locked into 2 deep. I think Ray's going to, I don't even think he gets mop up. I think he will redshirt this year because from what I understand, he has to get stronger. And I just think they're going to give him a year in the weight room and get his body right. But I do think he's a future starter at tackle, probably right tackle. But I think he's definitely got a bright future ahead of him, because I'll tell you one thing. When he made the Army All-American game, he started over Ohio's favorite tackle, Jackson Carman, and he outplayed him by a great deal. And I think Ray actually turned some heads when he played left tackle in that against the country's best in high school. and actually held his own in a kind of game. These kinds of games, it's really hard for the offensive line to gel and do their job. And he actually stood out and did pretty well.
Yeah. And is my math wrong, Cory? Or with this class and the current roster, don't we only have room for one person to redshirt and still go too deep at every position? Or we're pretty.
I haven't done the numbers on that, to be honest with you. I'm not even. I know we're gonna. I think we have to have some more attrition coming forward after spring. We expect some people to transfer, but
right.
I don't know where we are. I actually don't even know where we're at on the scholarship number right now.
Yeah, I think. Well, from the rumor mill, we were. I thought 3 over, or no, 4 over. If I thought it was 3 over if Booker left, but looks like he's not leaving. That's another story. So, I'm all about an offensive lineman redshirting if he needs to. It does not bother me, especially when we've seen the development that we saw this year, when we saw some backup guys come in and they didn't even really look like backups. So I have complete faith in Coach Stud and the offensive line system. If they say a guy needs the redshirt, I'm fine with that. But I am happy that he's on campus early and trying to compete and waving that red shirt if at all possible.
Yeah, I agree. I love his attitude, and I love the fact that we beat out Alabama for him. That's also another big win for us. Moving on to offensive lineman Matthew Jones, a center, number 1 center in the country.
Who?
Out of New York, Matthew Jones.
Who?
Are you playing with me right now, Johnny? Do I have to fire you again?
Who? Sorry, it was a bad Mike Jones reference, but you can continue.
Oh my God, you're fired. Oh God. Anyway, I don't even know where to go after that. I feel like I just don't even want to do the show anymore.
Why couldn't his name be Michael? Why couldn't his name be Mike?
I don't know. You have to ask his parents that one. But yeah, he was the number 1 center in the country out of New York, and he was actually the number 3 or 4 defensive tackle as well in the country. And the funny part is, I remember 2016. Ironically, when we missed out on a guy who's now a Buckeye, ironically, to Antoine Jackson. We'll get to him in a second. But I just thought, oh gosh, we're never going to get defensive tackles. It's ridiculous. And then somebody pointed out, hey, there's this Matt Jones from Curtis Samuel's old high school. He was the number 3 or 4 defensive tackle in the country, and we lead for him. I'm like, oh, thank God. And then as we get closer to his recruitment, oh no, we're recruiting him as a guard or a center. I'm like, okay, wait, what? I thought we were going to go for him for a defensive tackle, considering we keep missing out on big time tackles. And he's going to be a center. And my prediction for this season is Brady Taylor is the starter. Matt Burrell probably transfers after spring, and then Matt Jones wouldn't shock me at all if he was in a 2 deep right away.
Yeah, I mean, well, the signed point. This is what I love is that he seems like he must be a smart kid to play both of those positions. Center, you certainly have to know what's going on and know the blocking scheme very, very well. But to know he's so good at defensive line, and then our coaching staff says, no, we want him to be a center specifically, that tells me he must have a really good football IQ, really good football mind, and it sounds like he can join the long list of great centers we've had here at Ohio State. Yeah,
I agree. We got how many Remington Award winners in a row now, too? And on top of that, I have to say that listening to all these guys in their interviews, I'm going to, just before we jump on Antoine Jackson here, they all are very mature. They have great personalities. They're very polite, very kind people. I actually really, really not just love the talent, but I actually love the character of the players we're bringing in. And you bring up the football IQ with Matt Jones. Listening to his interview, yeah, he's a very a grounded kid who's polite and seems very articulate, very intelligent. So, and he's only 18 years old. So it's a lot to. I mean, you come into the big time program. This is huge, the big time program of Ohio State, and you're asked to do interviews for multiple media outlets your first few days, and you're able to handle it. That says a lot about him and others as well. So yeah, I agree with you that you gotta be something special that they look at you and say you're the center of the future. So I agree with you on that one. Prodigal son returns, Antoine Jackson Jr. This is an interesting story. I think broke by 11 Warriors. I can't remember if it was DJ Burns or not, the author, but when Larry Johnson basically told him, you hurt me the first time around when you didn't come to Ohio State, And if you visit another school, we're going to drop your scholarship offer this time around. And, I don't blame them for feeling that way, especially with the way we were racking up defensive tackle talent and Tommy Togiai and Taron Vincent. Jackson is a guy I expect to, if he's not starting, he's playing 50% of the snaps in the middle, splitting with Robert Landers as the one tech. I love the fact we got him, Johnny, because he was the number one JUCO in the entire country overall. Not just number one defensive tackle, number one player. He had such a great year at Blinn Community College or whatever, junior college, whatever you want to call it. And, coming from Auburn, that blocked him from going to Ohio State immediately for some reason because we play Auburn so often. And, let me ask you something. I mean, I don't know if you knew about Jackson in 2016 when we missed on him, but what was your reaction when he said, "I'm going to be a Buckeye"?
Well, anytime you land a guy like this, every time we get a guy, I'm just happy as a person that's not really deep in the recruiting world for years and years like you. I'm happy anytime we get somebody. I love these JUCO transfer guys because I just feel like if somebody's going to come in and make an impact right away, it's going to be a JUCO transfer over a freshman when it comes in positions like these. I was so high on Kendall Sheffield last year. I think he kind of proved me wrong, but he certainly was.
Towards the end of the year, he looked really good. Though.
He did.
He redeemed himself a bit and redeemed your prediction late in the year.
Yeah, well, me and everybody else, I think, kind of were scratching our heads on him at the beginning of the year. But these defensive line or these junior college transfers, I think, get forgotten about, and they really can bolster a class. You think about a guy that's been in a weight room at a college, albeit a junior college, for a couple years, and he's learning from college coaches. I love anytime we get to do this. Yes, you have them for less time, but they get to come in right away and make an impact. So if it were up to me, we would get several high-stakes junior college transfers a year. I know that's not plausible, but I love it anytime you can get one of those guys.
Yeah, and I agree, and especially at a position where we're losing some people like Mike Hill, Tracy Sprinkle. It's definitely deep, but it's deep with youth, and I love the fact that we get a guy, like you said, JUCO guy, who's experienced, who's extremely talented. 6'3", 6'4", 300-something pounds, a perfect one tech for what we want and what we need. Downhill player. I love it, and he's mature, and he wants to be a Buckeye in a bad way, and he had to go to Auburn to find that out, so...
it just means more up here.
It just means more, exactly. Last defensive lineman, Tommy Togiai. This guy's name screws me up. It just does. But I am so glad we got him. When I think back when he committed, just the commitment video, Larry Johnson and Urban Meyer are going absolutely nuts when in the living room. He says, "Yeah, I've decided I'm going to commit to Ohio State," and they just. Larry Johnson had the retirement rumors, and he jumps up like a, like a guy who's chasing the ice cream truck. And you'd have thought he just won the lottery the way he got excited. And not that he needs it, but anyway, getting paid $750,000 a year now as a position coach. He deserves it. Don't get me wrong, but man, that's crazy. But he deserves it. Larry's worth every penny, but and some, to be honest. But yeah, when they that kind of quelched the rumors a little bit. It's like, oh yeah, he definitely looks like he's done. He definitely looks like he doesn't enjoy this anymore. And just Tommy's great. You saw him in the high school All-American game. He was just bruising the interior line. He was just pushing people around, and from what I understand, a couple of the guards there actually said he was the most difficult to play against because every time they thought they had him figured out, he'd switch it up on them and change his strategy. So he's obviously a very intelligent player on top of that. And I actually thought he was going to redshirt this year. I thought, yeah, you know what? He'll probably redshirt, get his body right, even though he's strong as all get out right now. Probably get a year or two to tutelage under Larry and then make a huge impact his redshirt freshman year. But I'll tell you, if he's already that smart, he might find his way onto the field fairly quickly. I don't necessarily mean meaningful snaps, but it's possible he's playing in mop-up duty, kind of like Haskell Garrett last year.
Right, that or even, as a bull rusher on a punt block team or a special teams type of guy, because you're right. I saw a clip of him in the Army All-American practice just bull rushing a guy and getting rid of him. He seems so freakishly strong, and then to add to that what you said, he's also a smart player with technique that can switch it up. We've had some decent interior tackle play, but, our specialty's been on the end. So it's been a little while since we've had a guy like a Jonathan Hankins or somebody like that can really clog up and mess up the inside. I think Tommy could be the next generation of that, who can really can wreak havoc, and a guy that you cannot afford to double team the defensive ends because you have such a force on the inside. So I'm with you. If this guy is on the field this year, it wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, I think he and Taron Vincent, because Taron's more of a 3-tech defensive tackle, and Tommy's a 1-tech, I would argue. I think you could see a really, really ridiculous tandem in the future there. And that's if they beat out, I don't know, Haskell Garrett coming for, which they probably won't right away. But Antoine Jackson will be here for a short time, probably a year or two max, and go pro. And yeah, the defensive tackle position has never been deeper in my lifetime with Ohio State than it is right now with potential talent. Linebacker Dallas Gant beat out Notre Dame for him. Also played in the Army All-American game. You know what? We're pretty deep at linebacker in my opinion. I don't know what Dante Booker's going to do, but if you didn't hear about it, the rumor was Booker was going to transfer, and then it was retracted. And I don't know if that means that they got the story and weren't allowed to print it yet, and they got yelled at and then told to retract it. I don't know. But if Booker comes back, I just think a guy like Gant at best is special teams player. Maybe some mop-up minutes here and there. I don't know. Or else he just playing red shirts. I mean, again, if Booker's coming back, I just don't see how many of the the linebackers we recruited that are coming in are going to really see the field outside of maybe Mitchell at middle linebacker. But and Gant's a great player. He's going to be a great player. I'm saying he's not, but I just don't see him playing much this year if we get Booker back.
No, I'm with you, especially because of his position. If he was a true middle, a true inside guy, I could see him stealing some minutes because we are kind of without answers there in the middle. We think Tough Borland, but he's kind of slow. So, like you said, Mitchell is the guy. If any of these young guys come in and make a difference, almost because of the blessing of being at a thin position. So, with all the wealth of talent at the outside, it would be hard pressed to see this guy come in and get meaningful snaps. So I'm with you. Not that he is not talented, but right now, just because of the depth in front of him, probably a redshirt year, I would think.
Moving on to Seven Banks, I see a red shirt. We're pretty deep at that corner. Sean Wades is coming back from injury. You got Jeffrey Okuda, who looks to be excellent. Darian Arnett's going to be back. Kendall Sheffield's going to be back. And Seven Banks is a true corner. He will be a good one in the future, but I just don't see how he sees the field right away.
No, I'm with you. If he does, man, look out. If somehow, some way they can't bring themselves to redshirt this guy, then that just means he has to be extremely special. I mean, you think about it. Wade and Okuda are very, very special. Like the hype has died down a little bit because it's the off season, and last year was their recruiting year. But you remember, Cory, how highly touted those two guys were. Plus, like you said, Sheffield and Arnett. If somehow, some way he does not redshirt, look out, because out of everybody here, like you said, this seems like the almost sure thing that it would be a redshirt season.
Yeah, even though I do think he'll be a really good player down the road. I just don't know how you beat all these guys out. I mean, they like to rotate 3. They're going to have a good 4 to rotate if they want. Also, last but not least, certainly not least, this guy's got a bright future. Tyreek Johnson, out of the same school of Sean Wade, actually asked Sean Wade's permission to come here because he didn't want to rain on Sean's parade. And of course, Sean, being the level-headed, good guy teammate he is, says, "Yeah, come on up," And And you know what? Tyreek, again, I actually don't see him redshirting. I see him being a special teams demon, kind of like Amir Reep from last year. By the way, another corner in front of Seven Banks and Tyreek. I think Tyreek Johnson can, because he's really physical and he's nasty and he's fast. He's got his body's already ready for college. I see a guy they're going to put on special teams and he's going to wreck some people. That's how I feel about him.
Yeah. Again, possible red shirt, but this does seem the guy with more hype, the guy that is more physical, that could step back and play safety, maybe a little more versatile because of his physicality. So I think if he doesn't redshirt, I'm with you. Yeah, we can use him on special teams, but I would be extremely surprised if he did. And again, it's not to say these guys aren't extremely talented. They are. They're at the top of the class for a reason, but when we're just sitting really, really nice at the secondary positions right now.
And I got to say, the maturity of Banks and Johnson after Coach Kerry Coombs left just shows what kind of kids they are and what kind of young men they're going to grow into at Ohio State, because they took it in stride and they just respected the decision and they still love their decision to go to Ohio State. And I do think with the hire of new defensive backs coach Tabor Johnson, we're not going to miss a beat. As much as I respect Kerry and as much as I love Kerry as a coach, Tabor Johnson, I thought was a great hire, and he was been here before. He knows what's up, and he knows what kind of program Ohio State is, and he knows how to recruit for Ohio State. So, and he knows what's expected of him from a coach like Urban Meyer, and I think he's going to have these guys playing well. So
exactly, and not to mention Grinch coming in, also being a secondary specialist type of guy. So
safeties coach. Yeah,
exactly. So these guys are going to be just fine in their development. I think what you were saying about these recruits being so mature, we either have great PR coaches coaching them up and showing them how to act in an interview, or we can really trust what Urban Meyer was saying about not recruiting guys I don't want to be around or guys I don't like. And you know what? I don't care how many stars you have next to your name. If nobody wants to be around you and you're not a locker room guy and you're uncoachable, then, I don't disagree with a guy like Urban Meyer passing up on you. I actually heard on Coward this week, Cory, that Bill Belichick called and told Urban Meyer that. He said, I don't want to coach guys, or I'm not going to coach guys I don't want to be around anymore. And as we've heard, Urban said that he's kind of adopted that philosophy. And I really think, like you're saying, if these guys continue to be stand-up guys, this is great for this team going forward.
Yeah, the program's extremely healthy because of the quality. I mean, the coaches and the facilities and all that goes into it. It's a great football program no matter what. But the health of the program being so high right now rests on the quality of the characters, not just the players and talent, the character of the guys that he recruits and brings in. And that's what makes a great team and a great locker room, and makes it appealing for more great players to want to come and be a part of that. So definitely very high expectations for these guys, but not necessarily this year. So, but the future of the program is bright when you see kids like this taking on the challenge this early and answering the call. So.
Yeah, most certainly. This is a lot to be excited about coming forward. So many of these early enrollees, I am really, really looking forward to seeing them on the field in the spring game, and then most importantly, seeing the ones of them we're going to see this fall.
Absolutely. Hey, Johnny, it's good to knock out the new car smell on the new show. So it's been good to record again with you. Hopefully we can do it a little bit more often now. So,
yes.
Anyway, guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for being with us as always. You can also now catch us on YouTube, as I'm going to be uploading these shows to YouTube here. So, Johnny, why don't you take us out?
All right, guys. We thank you very much for joining us on this show, this inaugural show of the Scarlet and Great podcast. We'll be back more often this offseason to walk you through the offseason, walk you through developments on the football, basketball team, and do some fun stuff, some hypothetical type of stuff and debates this summer. We appreciate you guys listening. God bless, and go Bucks.